Hello, you're listening to Lady Audaci-TEA. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meredith. And we have two big pieces of news before we get into this episode, because I know you are all ready for the post-coronation talk. Alex and I literally just had to tell each other to save it for the pod.
Stop talking about it.
Because we just could not stop talking about everything we were going to talk about here. So before we get going, just a little housekeeping. We have two very big pieces of news. The first one is we have secured our first interview for the podcast at the end of this month, and it is none other than Miss Amanda of Matter of Fact fame, the American royal correspondent queen.
Whoop, whoop. We love Amanda here. We love our Amanda here, and we are so excited.
I can't believe she said yes. I mean, we're friends with her, but it was like, wow, thank you. Thank you for taking time.
Are always fun. So Lord knows we're going to have to be doing a lot. Wait, we should stop now because we've been on for like an hour on this topic.
Oh my gosh. We're going to have so much fun. So if you have any questions that you want us to ask Matter of Fact, you can go ahead, Instagram us, Lady Audacity, TikTok, email, reach out to us however you'd like. And during our first episode in June, we will have an announcement of something that is beyond our wildest dreams. That was a little hint for everyone. Not giving it away yet. Alex's face says she didn't know I was going to say that. And even she looks like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And finally, this was technically three pieces of news because apparently I can't count. Math was not my strong suit in school, children. So we are going to go into our every other week formula starting in June. That's how the podcast is going to be set up for now. And we are going to get right into it. We are going to be focusing on the ladies of the crown, specifically Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. We are getting right into the stuff that we know you guys want to talk about. We're not going to hold down on you. We're going to let you have dessert before dinner, okay? We are going to, you know what I mean? Like, let's give the people what they want. And they want this.
Okay. And I mean, let's be real. Even if one is a non-working royal right now, both of those ladies are carrying the royal family and being relevant on their backs right now. So
the crown is heavy, darling.
Quote Lisa Vanderpump.
So getting into the coronation was this past Saturday, May 6, 2023. And we got to watch a lot of white men reading cue cards and riding in golden carriages. It was very relatable. So Alex, what is your hot take on the coronation? Like, let's get into it. Let's just give overall impressions of this historic day.
So overall impressions, the family has no chemistry, low vibrations. They just have no chemistry. And like I said, thank goodness Kate had the children that she could vibe off of and give those moments. William was, I don't know if he was tired. I don't know if he was disassociating because he was going to have to like pledge loyalty to his father for eternity. But everyone was just checked out. The cousin row was by far the one to watch. Obviously,
that was the party row.
Talking, chatting, making funny faces, smiling. It was a good time, but everyone else just, it definitely was like, I'm at work. I did not want to clock in today, and I had to clock in, and here I am. And that was what it was giving. And I think other than that, what I find very interesting is a lot of people are comparing the photos of Queen Elizabeth's coronation to King Charles' coronation. And just like the fact, like I've seen Party City thrown around a lot, which is so funny because it's so true. I bet you that the Halloween costumes for 2023 is going to be exact replicas of the king and queen outfit. Okay, like literally their faces up. Like, there's going to be ones made exactly off of that because it is just so comedic and we know they're serious, so it's even funnier. It looks cheap, and I'm just kind of like, I think it speaks to how back in the day with the coronation, just from the quality of photos being taken, kind of helps put this vintage feel to it. So it almost is like, okay, it fits. It fits for that time. Yes. It fits for that aesthetic. But we're in 2023. We've got crisp cameras. Crisp, okay?
It feels really weird to your point. And you're right. The background, although it is like, royal, it does kind of look like a background that you would buy from Party City and do, like, a step and
Mhm.
repeat, you know what I mean?
It
It is
looks
giving step and
dusty.
repeat.
It looks like it's dusty in there. It looks like it smells in there like it's old, okay?
How foul do you think those robes smell? Think about it.
Thank you. I'm like, "Those robes look so dusty," like,
Can you
looking
dry
through
clean those? Like, can you
the coronet robes, as bad as we thought they would be, as bad as we thought they would be. It looks so cheap,
y'all,
so
I
stuffy.
so what I couldn't get over is, first of all, no one looked happy, and I guess and a lot of people online were like, "Oh, Americans just want everyone to look happy and and it's like,
I don't
but
know.
isn't this kind of akin to a celebration? I mean,
Yeah.
Charles looked miserable, and I'm like, "Man, you've been waiting 70 years for this. Like, come on,
Yeah,
perk
yeah,
up."
and the thing is, of course, again, you talk about, like, regal and royalty, you think stiff upper lip, held head held up high and stuff like that, but even then, again, when you look at Queen Elizabeth's coronation, sure, she looked serious, but she didn't look unhappy, and everyone looked
No.
unhappy in many ways, and on top of that, and this probably speaks to a little of our cultures, I mean, worldwide, ageism, our love for youth. But I
Yes.
also think youth, and I think especially now in our day and age when we're really recognizing what boomers and so on did to things like our economy and our society, youth also brings hope. And when you're
Yes.
just seeing a bunch of very old people, like 60 and up, some literally barely able to stand up, all white, we all know conservative, it's not giving hope. Because I've seen some people be like, why are people talking about it's a white family? Of course they're white. Who needs a diversity quota? And yes and no. Obviously, this is a white family, but it's still business. So actually, there is supposed to be kind of a diversity quota met. And when you know there is someone of color in the family, but they're not there because of how they were treated and the lack of support when they were facing things like racism, well, I'm just like they could have filled some kind of diversity quota,
But
but they weren't
Alex
allies. So
but Alex, they had the Ascension Choir, and they
Kate wore
had a
Alpazara shoes.
They had a woman with a sword. I mean, what more diversity do you want? No, but that's exactly it really felt like the service again, it's a traditional they were trying to be all the things, and when you wanna be everything, you end up being nothing. So it was
Exactly.
kind of traditional, but it wasn't. But then it felt like we were kind of ticking the boxes of, okay, we have a Jewish woman, we
Yes.
have a Sikh man, we have a black
The
choir.
choir.
It kind
Yes.
of felt like we were kind of marking off the boxes to say, look, we did the
Mhm.
thing. There was
With like
diversity.
even with Anne, it's, "Oh, see, he has a first female bodyguard. This is so empowering." Like, cool for Anne, like, cool, that's great. But again, it's kind of like, this would have been exciting in 2010, but this is 2023. A woman guarding a man. Whole oh my gosh, never been done before. Crazy.
We
It's
are
just kind of
we
like
are
we're behind.
truly behind the times. I have to say what also disturbed me is I didn't realize how much Charles's fingers looked like newborn baby hamsters. I did not realize that they are so red and swollen, and I am
Lord.
just worried for him. When they brought out that ring, I said, "Oh
Oh,
boy.
no. They
Oh
had
boy.
to have that fixed for his hand, because come on.
Oh my god." It looked like a crown that like Prince like Louis could wear, or you know
It's
what I mean?
yeah, and I will say, to give some credit, I
Okay,
do
yeah, let's
feel
give
like
credit.
we did swing very well back into relatable after that big show, which, I mean, from what I've seen and from talking to people I know in the UK, a lot of people said, like, a lot of the main conversations were either about the Wales children, Kate and Charlotte, protest, Harry, cost. They're
Yep,
like,
that sums it
so
up.
you guys may not be hearing it, but in the UK, even while this is all happening during the service, people are still talking about the protest and they're talking about the cost. They want to know the cost. So, like, this isn't going away. So I do think they just went right into kind of the relatable stuff with like the big help. Shout out to the Wales social media team doing amazing.
Oh my god, that filter that they had, I mean, why haven't they been
It's the
doing that?
Caribbean filter, and I love it so much. I love that filter so much. Give it to me, please. I will purchase.
Why haven't they been doing that for literally years? It is
Yes,
so cool, and
beautiful filter.
it's so timely, and it makes them so relatable. Again, people
For
are
BTS,
suckers for
yeah,
beautiful wide shots and good
exactly.
music and a good filter.
The good
They should have been doing
music.
this forever.
And the behind the scenes footage again, thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan, for showing them the power of social media because it
Bless
never
thee.
would have happened. It would have been too Hollywood still. but it helps, and it just makes it, like, relatable again, you know what I mean? Having the kids out there helping, everyone's digging stuff up. I mean, again, imagery is so important to this family, and we got great imagery. Laughing that the king and queen did not participate in the big help, but whatever. I don't know, they're tired, they're old, they had to get crowned, the day before, so obviously they need a couple days off. But I think they went into that very well, back into like somehow being relatable, and we're thanking everyone who participated, and we're all doing the big help out and volunteering. Um, I don't think it's going to take away from the issues that they're still facing, but I can see they're trying, I guess, and we'll maybe give them some credit there.
Yeah,
But
baby snaps, baby steps.
yeah, right, baby steps for sure. But overall, too, I see people like, William will do much better with his reign and his coronation. And again, I don't mean to be standing up for Charles, y'all, but I don't think this is fully Charles. I just think a coronation in this day and age is never going to look right, and it's
It
not
feels
going to feel
bizarre.
right. Exactly. And I think people keep forgetting William and Kate are going to be old by the time they go on the throne, unless, God forbid, Charles, dies or whatever in the next 5 years or so. They're going to be like 60 and up. They're
Yeah, at
not gonna
least.
be young and beautiful, which again, I don't think people are realizing how much of that was missing with the youth and that poise, you know what I mean? They're not going to have that.
So I
So
think to your point, and we'll get into this more with the British media when we get to that section. But I really feel like with Kate and William, there's a big push right now, I've noticed from the British media, to find a way to really hype William and Kate as the future, to, I
yeah.
think, hopefully build that kind of love and obsession so that when they are older individuals at the coronation in their
Mhm.
60s and 70s, people have had decades to just fall blissfully in love with them in the way that they haven't with Charles.
Like Queen Elizabeth. I mean, like Queen Elizabeth. They watched the girl grow up, they fell in love with her. She didn't, she wasn't doing anything controversial. Like, it was perfect. When she came into being the queen, there wasn't a bunch of drama in her background and controversial things. So it's like she was able to build all that up, come into queen, and people were so excited. And like, she's young, we got to give her a chance. Here she is. And I think for them, obviously, it's going to be, we love them. They've stayed devoted even through all the Harry and Meghan stuff, blah, blah, blah. And now they're going to step up. And if you don't like Charles and Camilla, hey, we still have William and Kate, guys. Pay
Yeah, and I
attention
think
to them.
it's an interesting balancing act between not offending Charles and Camilla and writing off their reign, but
Yes.
also really paving the way towards this obsession with Kate and William so
Yeah.
that there is this support for the monarchy that maybe isn't there right now. I also think with Queen Elizabeth, people were so excited. We talked about this in our last episode, just post World War II and
Yeah.
having something to celebrate. But also, it was such a precarious time for the monarchy because of the abdication less than a year into his reign by her
Mhm.
uncle, and then the 10-ish year reign of her father, and now this 25-year-old that I think people, when you're like excited, you're almost like willing someone to do well. You know what I mean? You're
Yes.
like, maybe if I smile hard enough and
Well,
clap hard
yes.
enough,
And
it'll be okay.
I think it's so interesting too when you look at this kind of stuff, whether it's the royal family or any public figure, is the way they kind of like exploit our emotions.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and cheering on an underdog is one of them. Even if it's an extremely rich woman who's always had privilege and power or was going to, you're going to cheer on the underdog. When everyone is sad and down and out, you just want some hope, dang it. And I totally see why Queen Elizabeth was that. I think, though, in 2023, where, there's a lot of different things going on there of why, but I would say education being a big one. And we are more educated on the fact that our government is, directly responsible for a lot of the reasons why, say, there's poverty and a house, a living crisis, and people can't eat and so on. So it's like hard to support the government's coronation pretty much because that is what Charles is representing and his family, when it's like, but you guys are directly why we're in these issues too, though. So it's just not matching the same way, because again, I feel like we're not as ignorant to what the royal family and the government can do, especially in negative ways. And we're just not also just, I think, looking for hope and aspiration anymore in our like political figures, and that's still what they are at the end of the day.
I think we've realized that, like, putting, royals or some of us at least, royals and political figures on a pedestal is not actually a good thing, and it's not
Yeah.
actually helpful, and it's maybe not where we should be looking for hope and change, that,
Yes,
change is really gonna come from the groundswell of people,
exactly.
of everyday people. I'm trying to find my favorite tweet from the coronation because like, the takes on Twitter were great. I was very into it. So my absolute favorite is Paddington the bear, who was not invited to speak at the coronation. His honey guzzling faux Pooh Bear was, though. And so Paddington the bear decided to tweet, "Remember to be kind and polite today." And this guy named James Felton tweets at him, "Read the room, Paddington, you marmalade cunt."
And I mean, the biggest
It's
tweet
so
I
funny.
saw, the one I think almost got like 200K likes or something, was a woman in reference to Andrew, talking about Andrew being there in his regalia in the succession, in the procession, and also the fact that Harry wasn't, and what are their offenses. So again, I also think that I forgot to mention Andrew was a big topic of discussion too. So
That hoe.
it's like what you
That
deserve.
that hoe. That
Exactly,
absolute hoe.
that hoe. So, yes, it's interesting what's going to come the next few and for me, the vibe, like, has it already started, like, plummeting? Like, how long is it gonna last?
It feels like the high wore off. It feels like really cheap weed,
Yeah.
and it just, you know what I mean? Like, that did not last the 4 hours that I was promised.
Exactly, in the photos the next day are just talking about how everything's trash. Everyone just, like, left their shit everywhere, and there's trash everywhere, and tents
Yeah,
half up still, and blah, 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 blah. So, and again, I feel like what I'm seeing too is when you're looking at, like, the top stories and stuff, again, it's either talking about the children, or it's asking about the cost, or it's talking about Harry, somehow it's talking about Meghan, or again,
gotta.
talking about the cost.
Oh, yeah.
And Camilla got called a side chick, and Charles got called a little baby. He gave us lots of great meme reactions, though. So thank you, Charles.
So
Thanks to you,
many.
Charles. Okay, let's talk fashion. Let's
Gotta.
talk fashion because
Lighten
not
up, it's
only
just
is
fashion, it's just
it
fashion.
we're dancing, but not only is it fun, but it also brought us a little bit investigation detective Alex came out the last 24 hours. So, as we know, fashion, and obviously the person everyone was looking to the most to see what they were going to wear was going to be Kate. And she
Especially with
showed
the
out.
tiaras.
Yes, and she did not disappoint. I feel like we hit fashion, we hit shadiness, we hit messaging, and I like it. So she came in wearing the Alexandra McQueen dress, an ivory silk crepe with silver bullion and threadwork embroidery featuring rose, thistle, daffodil, and shamrock motifs with the Royal Victorian Order mantle. And also that embroidery reflects also what we saw on her wedding gown. So, a lot of linking that going there, really beautiful, representing the United Kingdom. We also, of course, the crown, or the not crown, not tiara, but
The
looks like a
non-crown crown, the sustainable, not sustainable because it was recently made not crown.
tiara. Yes, the one that looks like it could be a tiara from the vault, and one that almost looks identical to one that Rose wore at a St.
Oh,
Louis
you
wedding
you bring it up,
2017.
Rose. You're
I
great.
brought it up. I brought it up.
Mention it all. Mention
Mention
it
it
all.
all. So with that, it was really beautiful. I'm looking, of
Can
course,
I
the
can I
last
give you some thoughts on the not crown, crown, tiara, not tiara?
yes.
All right. Okay. Listen, I love camp. I'm a former musical theater nerd. Okay. I love camp. I'm gonna say this though. When she was outside in broad daylight, in natural light, that thing looked like a Christmas wreath
Yeah.
that you buy from Michael's with your 40% off coupon.
It it
It
was
looked
it was looking
it was
DIY.
it was giving silver and gold. It was giving Pinterest project. I think they didn't I don't think Kate's team and whoever's doing her makeup, whether it's her or someone else, I don't think they considered the lighting differences. And it is very hard to make something look good inside Westminster Abbey, different lighting and natural daylight.
For it to not
But
wrinkle, everything else. Yeah.
the makeup, I just want to listen. As a fellow pale girl, I feel like I can say this. Kate, the eye makeup is too dark and the bronzer and contour is too muddy. We are not
With the
doing the right
bronzer, it's
colors.
especially too much. I
It's
really
too
want
much.
her to go a lighter bronzer. Her bronzer is
Yes.
too dark. It's way too dark. I also think, like, the tones underneath just aren't going with her skin. I
No,
don't
not at
know,
all.
like, and I think too because, like, okay, makeup. There's a difference between like a contour stick and your bronzer. A bronzer is going to bring more of a glow and stuff like that. And I think she's
Yes.
mostly using bronzer, but I think the trouble is the bronzer is too dark and it's
Yes.
not being blended. I'm like, honey, you need to underpaint first. You need to do your contour and your highlight first and then put your foundation on and not the opposite because whoever is blending doesn't know how to blend. So if you can't blend properly, you just do underneath first so you can the foundation will help, just decrease that
Get thee a
underneath
magic
it.
blender and get to work. Get to
Like,
work.
I mean, supposedly she does her makeup. I don't know. That's a big debate if she does or not.
I feel like that is bold to do your own makeup for these kind of events. I mean,
I
that's a
know.
lot of
Yeah.
pressure.
I think Kate, like, again, anyone, because I feel like people are so like, Kate is, she is a human. She is a billionaire. Okay. She's a public figure. They're going to do some trickery things. It happens. I'm just going to say it. I don't know if she actually I believe that she does her own makeup. I don't even know if I actually believe she did her own makeup for her wedding. I think that's something that's make her very relatable and middle class
Yes.
Kate. And she's so cute and sweet. Um, but who knows if that's always true.
It's hard to tell. Listen, Kate, from one pale woman to another, and a woman who I'm a couple years younger than Kate, but I get it. As you age, we lose color in our face. I'm gonna suggest lighter eye makeup,
Yes.
and focus on a really good blush that suits your skin tone to bring a little bit of color to your cheeks. We
She
don't
did
need to
not
go
use
as
a
dark.
bronzer.
We
She
don't
should have
need to
went
go
pink.
as
Yeah, she
dark.
should have went blush. So that headpiece too was made by Jessica Collette, and that was also Alexandra McQueen. It's a headpiece with silver bullion, crystal, and silver thread work three-dimensional leaf embroidery. We also saw that Princess Charlotte had the same one, but she just had one row. And I preferred Princess Charlotte's. I
Me
preferred
too.
Charlotte. And I think it's because like when you see it outwards, you see it at first, that like big shot, gorgeous. It looks like a tiara. But up close and you can start seeing like the little thin bands. It gives DIY project again. But I love that she did that. And I so wish we know how much Camila and Charles knew about that headpiece before she wore it.
I
But
would do
because
anything to know. But
yeah,
you know what's funny? Remember last week on our podcast, I literally thought they were gonna go and buy some freaking real ass flowers and put them in her hair like it's a boho chic 2016
yes.
party, like
I
it's
mean,
Coachella. I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought they were actually going to go the environmentalist route
yeah.
when it would have been more environmentally friendly to just use what they already had in the vault.
Well, exactly. And I thought we would see kind of like a Queen Victoria type of flower crown going, especially in that day and age. Her ladies in waitings would do that type of stuff. But a lot of people pointed out her tiara too also you could see maybe took inspo from the Queen's ladies in waitings during her coronation. They had that little
Oh.
like silver headpiece. To me, it almost looked though like something that would be out of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. Who is it? Let It Go. What's that Disney?
Oh, Frozen. Let
Thank
it
you. Yes,
go.
thank you. Frozen, kind of like
Yes.
almost that ice princess it was looking to me. This I didn't really get flowers with that, but you can totally see though the inspo, like they kind of do have the same shape. But yeah, those though I'm pretty sure were like diamonds. And you could tell the difference. And yeah, so we have that. It looks beautiful. It's great. Charlotte, number one dress for me.
So
Her and
cute.
Zara. Her and Zara. I loved Zara's coat dress, the blue with
Zara
the lighter
brings
blue
it.
on the inside lining.
I
Gorgeous.
live for a coat dress. That's a hill I will die on. I don't care how
Oh
many
yeah,
people are
same.
like, "Kate needs to stop wearing coat dresses." No, I
I like
freaking
coat dresses.
love it. I
Yeah, I
freaking
love
love
a
it.
coat dress. There's several coat dresses I love by Kate. I think the reason why coat dresses with her kind of got is because they started to get kind of ugly, and it's just like all she wears.
Well, they age her. That's the problem is
Yes.
I feel like they're almost like Kate's team almost overthinks her outfits at this point, and then it
Yes.
veers too much into just aging her in a way. She's only 41.
I think
She's
too,
not
yeah,
an old woman.
it's that trouble of I need you to kind of be like Queen Elizabeth too. but youthful. And I
Yes.
always want to argue with that because I'm like, Queen Elizabeth, though, dressed her age at her age. So they're dressing her like literally Queen Elizabeth at 70 instead of Queen Elizabeth at 40 or at 30 or whatever. And she was wearing Dior. She was giving cleavage. Okay. Like she was giving recent modern fashion for her day. Like,
Give me cleavage.
give me cleavage. Okay. Like I said, Queen Elizabeth had a big old chest. And as someone with a big
Girl,
old
she's got
chest, she
she's
got
got a nice
yes,
body.
okay. Queen Elizabeth has a bust, okay, and she's got a tiny little waist, and like
Yes.
they figured out how to cover that up so well. Like I always laugh at her wedding dress because I don't like her wedding dress. I'm like, it's too damn big, and you can tell it's too big because they're trying to cover up the fact that she's got a big ass chest, so they just made it too big, and I'm like, let that woman have a chest, okay? Like, jeez.
Speaking of too big, the current queen, Queen Camilla, I thought her dress looked so baggy on her.
It
Who
was
is doing her dirty? Someone is sabotaging her.
well,
That dress was a
that was
crime.
Diana's dressmaker. No, it was, but I'm kidding him. He's sabotaging her. But I mean, it also goes though with a lot of her gowns. I mean, this is a discussion we need to have one day for the podcast about Camila and her fashion because I do finding
I
it
can't.
intriguing having to follow up Diana and she was the fashion girl. And how are you supposed to deal with fashion? Do you want to be a fashion it girl when the person who's going to always overshadow you was, or are you going to kind of blend in the background with that? And I
I
think
just
she
feel
kind of
like
goes in the other way.
I just feel like you can blend in the background while also creating a waist on your dress. I cannot do if I see
Exactly.
one more freaking tent dress
Yeah, the
from that
staycation
woman.
dress, was it Germany? They had to cancel France, so I think they just went they went
Yeah, they
directly to
went to
Germany.
Germany.
That one too. It's all they give her no waist. And again, it reminds me of Queen Elizabeth, but I think it's for different reasons. So
Yes.
it's a shame. I did love that she had like her grandkids' names stitched
That
into the
was cute.
fabric. I think that was really sweet. But yeah, overall it was very just like unclimatic. I said that weird.
Yeah, it was
But
no, it's an Alexism. It's an Alexism.
yes, we're just going with it now.
Let's
But
do it.
it was yeah, it was kinda like, the dress didn't look great. I mean, we didn't see her the day before, so I think too that I felt almost like maybe there was a build up to seeing her, and again, it was just kind of like, "Oh, maybe she was just tired because she still looks tired."
Oh, she looked a mess.
So, ladies look great, the fashion was fun, absolutely no tiaras, it was definitely, church Sunday best slash, like, royal wedding type of attire.
Yeah.
So we get to the coronation photos, the official photos though, and this is when we have a little, like, drama. Detective Alex came out. So in the
Detective
coronation
Alex on the
photos
case.
yes. In the coronation photos, it's very obvious that Kate is wearing well, let's say this. In the coronation photos, the official photos, Kate, for a fact, has a different neckline. That is the fact. And she is
Okay.
also wearing the three-strand necklace. Which one was it? She is wearing the George the Third Feston necklace. Or no, he's not the third. George the Fourth Feston necklace that was
Yeah, I was about to say
given.
George the Third, different George. I think you've been
That was a
watching
different
too
man.
much Queen Charlotte. You've been watching too much Queen Charlotte.
Literally, yes. Yes, I have. Yes, I have, guys. So that was reported earlier in the coronation, like as it was happening that she was wearing that. And everyone's like, no, she's literally not, but then we see in the coronation photo that she is. So yay. That, that was really cool because that was gifted to the queen by her father while she was still, a teenager and a princess. And I think what's really cool about that though is Kate has actually never worn that necklace before. It's like this three-strand necklace. It was made out of just like loose diamonds they have in the
Oh,
vault
it's
because,
stunning.
rich people, that's what they have, loose diamonds in their vaults.
Rich people doing rich people things.
Okay. And it's stunning. Yes. Gorgeous. So it's really cool too, because that also means that Charles would have lent that to her because, that comes from the vault. Obviously, this is a new loan too. So this I isn't even like, well, Queen Elizabeth let her wear it, so I guess we'll let her wear it. But like she hadn't. So I will say, hey, maybe they did know about the tiara, non-tiara, whatever, because he did give her this necklace. And that is a big
That was a
moment.
concession.
Exactly. That was a big moment. It is a big moment knowing he did that to her. Queen Elizabeth loved that necklace. She wore it throughout her life. Okay. So it's definitely something you can tell she treasured to allow Kate to wear it and during the coronation for the photos. They at least recognize the importance of Kate and William. I think it's obvious that they don't get along, but I do think people forget Camilla and Charles do understand their importance and don't always let their egos get in the way. But there we go on that.
Can I just say
So
that King Charles, his imperial robe looked like he successfully skinned 101 Dalmatians. It was giving Cruella de Vil. It was giving, "Get me those puppies." You know
yes,
what I meaning? It
it's
was giving that
oh, yeah.
energy.
The thing is we know for a fact, different neckline, and she has the necklace on. But we don't know is if this is a second dress or not. Mind you, everything I'm going to say here is my opinion. Yes, do I think this is opinions that I've taken out of like looking and doing research, which is staring at like 100 photos and Getty images.
I'm glad someone did.
Yes,
I'm
it
glad
is.
someone did because I did not. I was
Yes,
tapped
I
out.
did a lot last night. I had insomnia. I was all over there, guys. So for me, okay, I just think it's interesting because for one, I think the reason why people don't want to say that Kate maybe wore a second dress is because people don't like to think of Kate as problematic. They don't like to think of her as wasteful. Having a second dress made that's nearly identical to the first one, it's giving overconsumption. It's giving a little bit of let them eat cake. It's giving out of touch, okay? And my thing is, again, Kate is a billionaire, okay? She was a rich woman before that. Her parents were millionaires. She has like 40 green coats. Okay. She has like six Alexandra McQueen coats that are exactly the same silhouette, but just different colors.
What a life.
Yeah, right. Amelia Wixted, she has like three of the same exact dresses, but in different colors. I'm like, looking at Kate's history, it's really not crazy to think that she would get another dress made almost exactly the same. Recently, there was LK Bennett, I think, is the coat, but it's a burgundy coat. She wore it back in like 2013. It reappeared this year, and we're like, oh, she's re-wearing the same coat, but it was longer. And we're like, oh, so she just got it redone. And then was like, oh no, it's a new coat. So again, Kate will get something made that's almost exactly the same to wear it for a certain occasion or to fit with what she needs for her new look. So
But
what I
why a second dress for this though? That's what I don't understand. But
yes.
why do you think?
So the reason why I think there was a second dress is this was from Emily Andrews. She was discussing this with another Kate Twitter. Because I'll admit too, I was going on the Kate Twitter blogs and everything too. Because hey, maybe this is my own bias coming in and making me see things that aren't there. But I could see anyone who just with any sort of sanity and isn't a complete stan was like, no, this looks like a different dress. Like because even the bottom stitching on the hem, and hey, that can be debated, to me looks slightly different. The flowers don't seem as in bloom in the coronation photo in that embroidery. And I think on top of that, I think what happened is Emily Andrews said there was a lot of back and forth about what the attire was going to be for them. And at our last episode, we went over the tiara back and forth. And one of the Sun, I think was in May, Russell Myers had said that there's a back and forth because the palace wasn't giving any confirmations and then finally did. And it was very last minute and people were stressed out and like pissed off. So I could see that also going for what are we going to be wearing? Are we going to be wearing the robes? Are we not going to be wearing the robes? Are we going to be wearing the tiaras? Are we not going to be wearing the tiaras? So you have two different dresses made for you.
Oh, okay.
That's
Actually,
what
that
they're pretty much
that
saying
kind
they
of
think
makes sense.
happened. Yeah,
That's
that
a Capricorn move right there. Okay, listen, Kate is a fellow Capricorn, January
exactly.
Capricorn, but that's a Capricorn move.
And
Come
I'm
prepared.
saying over prepared. I see. This is what Emily. Okay, so this is from a Twitter account, Emma4 about Royal. I think the neckline on the official photo may not have suited the cape. I don't know how long before they decided on the robes, but maybe she had two dresses made because the dress code was not settled. Emily Andrews responds, I think this is a good theory. The king asked her and W to wear robes, and apparently the dress code was not signed off that long ago. So perhaps his dress plus neckline was first iteration, and a second one was needed to go with the robes and mantles as a low neckline doesn't go. So,
That actually makes perfect sense.
exactly. I think that's a possibility. So, because let me get a little shady here. You got
Oh, okay.
okay, let me get a little shady. I find it so hard to believe that Kate that is somehow the same dress. Because first I'm hearing people are like, she just wore it backwards at first. And then first off, this is the coronation. This is Kate Middleton, y'all.
Who
I am
wears McQueen
sorry.
backwards?
Thank you. Couture, okay? People want Kate to be more sustainable than she actually is, especially when it comes to her fashion. Kate does not do sustainable fashion unless there is an eco-friendly event and she has to and she wears like a brand that's eco-friendly or she rewears something. Cool. Kate does rewear things, but she is not sustainable fashion. Again, the 6 30-something green coats, the 6 McQueen coats that are almost exactly the same but different colors. And I think on top of that is that need to stand up for her and the need to be like, no, she wouldn't do something problematic or wasteful like this. You just have kind of ridiculous things thrown out there.
It's the pedestal thing. It's the pedestal thing.
Exactly.
You put her on a pedestal, and I think that's a dangerous precedent because
It's
then you
very
need
dangerous.
someone to be all the things, and they are not. And
And
maybe that's okay.
exactly. She's not always sustainable. And Kate, again, a rich woman who has access to the best of the best likes to have various clothing. Not shocking. And it wouldn't be shocking for a coronation that she would have two dresses. This is a huge event. I can give her a little bit of a little bit of something there. But I also think too, I heard obviously people thought, okay, maybe she had some sort of cape, like little caplet or something to cover that area because maybe it would have been, indecent in the church. Which I would fight against because I'm like, you can look at old coronation photos and the styles back then, like Queen Mary and stuff, their necklines were actually lower than Kate's.
Oh,
They were
lots of
showing some
tits.
cleavage. Yeah, so I'm
Tits
like, I don't think that's
and
what they would do for the
ass.
church. Yeah, so I don't think that. And then the cape thing, I was like, okay, it could be a cape. Charlotte had a cape. But you can look again. I've looked at hundreds of photos, you guys. There is no cape unless Sarah Burton is making invisible cloaks. Okay, Harry Potter status. There
Yes.
is no cape. There's just no possible way there's a cape. And I've seen a couple tweets going around. There's one, they circle the side of Kate. It's from a side angle, and you can see something white popping out of her robe. And I pointed out, you can see from the stock photos of these robes, hanging on a mannequin, to literally Sophie, who's standing next to her on the balcony, that's just part of the Victorian robe. Like that is just
Yeah.
part of the robe. It's also on Sophia's. It's just like a second little shoulder thing. It's one and then it's two, and it's a little bit lower than the second one. So that's not the cape. People are thinking maybe it's at like the little star there, but there's close-ups of that where you can see and she's like bending over and stuff. There's no second material. It's just all one material going down. And again, you can debate about the hemline. To me, it looks like the embroidery is different. All to say, I just think there was a second dress. I
And,
will
like, who
say,
cares? Like, it's
yeah,
fine.
and,
It's
I also
fine.
get why people do care. The overconsumption here
Okay.
is, a lot.
Yeah,
It is a lot. It's kind of much. These are 2 couture gowns. That's cost a lot of effing money. And I
that's
will
fair. That's
say,
fair.
I think the V-neck for the coronation, I think it would have worked well with the robe. I think it totally would have worked fine with the robe.
I
Obviously not with
know.
the necklace. I think it would have been too busy.
Yeah.
And maybe not, it wouldn't have been as seamless, but I don't think it would have been horrible. And I think this is where I get with Kate and where I'm like, you could be relatable. It's relatable to only have something and be like, hey, it's not totally perfect, but I can make it work, than saying, hey, this doesn't completely work with my outfit, so I'm gonna go out and buy a new one. Most people can't do that. And
Yeah.
Kate's ability to just constantly do that and just make slight changes, it is giving added touch. But I will say on the other side of that, Kate has done really well, I think, with her wardrobe for Coronation Weekend. It's almost
I
all
agree.
the repeats. The new dresses have been like the Ginny Packman one, the black and white one, which is just stunning. So, who really
It's really
cares?
beautiful.
And then today, they actually had the garden party, and William and Kate were there, and she pretty much wore her exact outfit from the 2019 Royal Ascot, which is that Ellie Saab dress, which everyone loves. I think it's really,
Oh,
really cool.
yes.
She wore the outfit exactly, the hat, the shoes, everything. So it's giving, it's giving, it's a repeat. I think she played it smart, and maybe that helps outweigh the fact that I got a new one. Also, one more thing, because I know people are going to bring this up. There was another tweet by a man, Alistair Bruce, who works for Sky News. He's a commentator on there. So he was talking about the garter robes, and there's a tweet, someone says confused, and it is talking about Kate's 2 different dresses. And they have the photos of the dresses, one with the robes and one without. And he says, explanation. In the left pic he is talking about is her with the robe on, and the neckline goes all the way to her neck. HRH is wearing mantle and collar chain of a Dame Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. In right, mantle and collar have been removed to reveal the dress on which is worn broad ribbon, badge, and star of the same order. So everyone's like, cool, but we're talking about the neckline of the dress, not the robes. That's cool enough, but that's not what we really care about right now. So the M4 about Royal says the neckline of the dress is not the same. I think Tora H is talking about that mostly. He says additional temporary cape to complement mantle, collar, and protect dress from wire-woven fastening cords with heavy swag knots. And then someone says, I thought that also, but it wasn't confirmed. Are you confirming this, or is this just your expertise? So people are saying that's confirmation. Personally, reading that thread, I think that's just him assuming.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, and him just saying what he thinks it could be. So again, I think she just had another dress made. Do I think it's wasteful? Yes, but I don't think it's shocking. Kate
Yeah.
is not sustainable fashion. She's not really sustainable at all, and neither is her husband. I'm not just putting this on Kate. Neither is her husband. So yeah, your girl is your problematic fame. She's not sustainable. She got a second couture dress made. I mean, it's really not that crazy
Yeah,
for Kate.
listen,
Poor
to quote a problematic person, Sheryl Sandberg, lean
Kate.
in. Lean into your problematic faith. Okay, a couple of final thoughts on the fashion. Prince Harry was looking like a damn snack in that Dior morning suit by artistic director Kim Jones.
A
So
snack.
good. A full-on snack. I did not miss the military uniform. He looked great. Sophie
Love it.
Sophie, I loved her hair floral piece. She kinda had, like, a sideways one. She was stunning in that white Susanna London gown. Again, when she gets it so well. Her daughter,
Yeah.
Lady Louise, looking
Oh,
lovely.
yes. How did I not like also best dress for me? Top 3 right
She
there.
looks so good and so age
Beautiful.
appropriate.
Yes, because one thing I've noticed with her is they don't always dress her age appropriate, and 2, they don't know how to do her curly hair.
No, they
It
don't.
frustrates me so bad. I'm like, that poor girl, no one knows how to do her curly, wavy hair, so I'm glad they just gave her a blowout
Yep.
and went with there because when they straighten it is when it seems like someone can actually knows how to style it. So,
Yep.
great. Her makeup too, stunning girl, stunning.
So good. Princess Anne looked like she was ready to fight Napoleon. I
Yes.
appreciated it. I also think her hat was purposely tall so that Prince Harry, they wouldn't capture him in shots by the British media. I thought that was well
Yes.
played.
Yes.
I'd like to think that's why she did it. Prince Andrew, is an abomination. He
Yes.
should not be wearing anything. He should be in jail. Anyway, do you have any other thoughts?
I have no other thoughts other than that. I thought it was a good time. I did not have the 2 dress or 1 dress on my bingo card, but I enjoyed it while it happened, and I'm happy to know I'm right. Ha, ha, ha. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm kidding. It's still a guess, but whatever. I'm right, guys. I'm
Yeah.
right. 2 dresses. There's no way. It's 2 dresses.
So, of course, we would be remiss if we did not discuss the British media and the way they covered the coronation. Let's just say it's
Mhm.
giving trying to make fetch happen. Is what
That's
I feel. We
what.
got a lot of lip reading experts, lots of body language experts. And again, it's almost like some of these stories they could have written before the fact, like Harry looking cocky with no shame. Like I feel like they could
Yeah.
have it because it and again, it's so interesting. So that was one from The Sun where it's a body language expert. Oh, Judy James, my
Love.
favorite. He's cocky because he was walking and smiling to people he hasn't seen in a while. They want this man to grovel and to come back beaten and broken. And anytime he shows that he is fine and unbothered and
Oh
moisturized
my
and
gosh.
hydrated and soaking up that California sun, when he shows he's a California girl, they just lose their minds. They hate it. And it's actually really gross to wish that kind of despair and pain on a human being.
As a punishment for leaving an environment that 1 wasn't healthy for him anyways, and then 2 became even worse when his wife was faced with what she had to face. And I think that's what troubles me because, like, Camila Tomlin, she's been writing article after article. We have the one about how Kate, even though the queen was crowned, it was Kate who shined.
Ooh, Camilla's not
Um,
gonna like that one.
no, no, no. And then we have a most recent one is something like, if William wants to be Charles' right hand man, he's got to learn to forgive Harry. Because as far as, Charles is pushing his media, his people are pushing that he's trying to forgive Harry. He still has love for him, blah, blah. Like he's being the bigger man. So it's interesting because it's like now they're asking of that from William. And that one, look, I read the article. You guys, it's the same stuff as usual. Kate and William are so much better. They have more respect for the monarchy. They're more in love. Kate is his mood stabilizer and she makes him really think about things and not react on his anger. And, all's just setting it up that William and Kate are the bigger person and are willing to forgive Harry for the greater good. Of course, no mention of Meghan or anything. Do think it's funny, and this is partially coming because, like, you can just see in this coronation photo, who's going to be working in the next 10 years? Half of those people are going to be retired, if honestly, maybe not alive anymore. So I kind of see why we're going this path. And I think it's interesting because you start seeing responses to that. Like, you guys put too much pressure on William. Yes, he's amazing, but he shouldn't have to forgive anyone. He should have to forgive his toxic family member, which I think is interesting because it is turning the narrative a little bit. Suddenly, Harry's a toxic family member, but he's the one who's breaking generational trauma while William is continuing it. So again, I just think it's interesting how they're able slowly but surely just kind of change the narrative and somehow make William always the victim and the one who's victorious at the end. And also the one
Yeah.
who also has all the power. He's the victim, but he also has all the power. It's just interesting.
I have to say, yeah, it's been very interesting seeing how they're talking about, again, promoting Kate over Camilla, but in a very careful way to
Very
as
careful
not
way.
upset Camilla. We know she has a lot of media connections. You need to be careful.
Exactly.
I have to say, the article that probably pissed me off the most, I'll be totally honest with you, it was from the Daily Mail by Rebecca English.
Ah!
She's
Our
one.
favorite.
Yeah, and it's from May 7th, 2023. And it's one of those, again, the Mail has a problem where they write the entire article
Oh
in
my god,
the
in the
headline.
headline.
Literally, I
Yes.
can feel my journalism teacher from college screaming at me because it
Yes.
goes against every fiber of my being. So it says exclusive. Charles's sorrow at Harry's disappearing act, how genuinely disappointed King raised poignant toast to grandson Archie, wherever you are, at post-coronation buffet, despite Prince having already left. This rewriting of the narrative. And here's the first sentence. You ready for this? The king raised a glass to toast the fourth birthday of Prince Harry's son Archie at Buckingham Palace yesterday in a moving tribute to the grandson he has barely seen. Why has he barely
We've
seen him,
seen this.
bitch?
And we know that he got invited we know they got invited to the baptism for Lily and stuff. And again, I'm not saying it's easy for senior royals to travel to California, but I do think it'd be easier for them to travel there undetected than it would be Harry and Meghan to come there undetected with the children, especially with the children. Um
It is giving whatever love is. It is giving that terrible throwaway. And like you said, this is a shady November
It's
Scorpio. Is that
giving
correct?
male November Scorpio. Like you're a victim and you're shady. Like Drake. Have you guys ever listened to a Drake song? I'm like, wait a minute, you screw this girl over, but you're the victim crying? Okay. Like this is Charles. Charles, you're the one who didn't support your son. You didn't support your daughter-in-law. You've made no, it seems, action to seize those children unless it's on royal property, and then you can leak to the press about it. And honestly, again, I would not be shocked if this never happened and we're just being told it did.
This feels so
Right.
performative. This feels so
Oh, very.
performative. What is
Wherever
this
he is
What is
with
this
his
okay, so
mother.
because what does this actually do? What does this do except to make people around him feel bad? You know what you coulda
Exactly.
done? You coulda get one of your courtiers to set up the FaceTime or the Zoom and
Yes.
called your freaking grandson and wished him a happy birthday. This is
Yes.
performative. This is disgusting. Using a child in this way is so creepy to me, and I hate it.
And so, actually, since they're on that using the grandchildren, in that article for the Camila Tominey one talking about like William should forgive Harry, what I found the most interesting was a bit talking about when William and Charles didn't get along. So I'm going to read this bit real quick.
Okay.
There were huge tensions between the pair when, during the commemorations to mark the 20th anniversary of his mother's death, Prince William resolutely refused to acknowledge his father's role in his and Harry's upbringing. If you guys remember, there was the ITV documentary, Diana, Our Mother, Her Life and Legacy, that was celebrating 20 years since she had passed away. So the King's Eggs begged Prince William to give him the nod when he addressed journalists before the screening of the ITV documentary, but he flatly refused. It was left to Prince Harry to pay tribute to his father in a BBC documentary, saying he was there for us, he was one out of two left, and he tried to do his best and to make sure we were protected and looked after. The incident followed reports that the king had felt edged out by Kate's parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, when it came to spending time with his grandchildren, and father and son relations hit an all time low when a previously unseen photograph of Prince George inadvertently appeared in a video broadcast featuring the heir to the throne. According to insiders, the father of three hit the roof, and for a period, the king became much closer to Harry. I will post
Huh.
these things on our stories and on our page when this comes out to post pretty much the photo they're talking about in articles during this time because I remember this and I remember those articles like especially about the Middletons and Charles that the Middletons were closer to the family, they saw the grandkids more. Charles was just, hands off as usual. There
Isn't
was
that
tension.
interesting though? Isn't that interesting though with Prince Harry, how here's an
Yes,
example of allegedly, a time where Prince Harry stood up and like did the thing for the good of the family, for all the talk
exactly.
of Prince Harry,
So
throwing his family
skeptical.
under the bus, hurting his father. This sounds like a situation where he actually stepped up and
He
kind of
played
came
the
to the aid
game.
of his father.
Exactly, and I think that's what's sad too, and why I get frustrated when I see, like, people trying to take this headline as, "William's just cutting off his toxic brother, let him be." It's like, no, though. William, at one point, did feel like he was trying to break some of this generational stuff, and I think in ways he has with his own children. I do believe William is hands-on with his children, or at least hands-on for a royal parent and what they can do.
Yeah.
They genuinely love their children and want to try to bring some sense of normalcy to them, which is why I think he's protective. They were very protective of George at that time. And I say especially that's, and not saying they aren't as protective of the other children. I just don't think they have to be now because they've set a precedent and then you have the whole
Yes.
Meghan and
Yes.
Harry stuff. But with George, it was like, we will sue you. Stop trying to
Yes.
take
Don't take
pictures
pictures.
of our
Yes.
child. Stop trying to literally rope him out of the shadows so you guys can get the shot. And then for Charles to feed into that by giving an unseen photo without consent, totally disrespectful.
Gross.
And
It
again, I
also
think, I think shows his history of using the grandchildren though for his PR. We are now seeing this with Archie and Lilibet, wherever they are, like they're with their mother in Montecito. Like we know where they are. He uses his grandchildren, specifically William and Harry's children, for his press and also
yes.
to victimize him. It was the same thing with William and Kate's kids. It's like they won't let me see them. The Middletons won't let me see them. Blah blah blah. Like he was
I like your
obviously.
British accent. I like your Charles. I like your
Thank
baby
you.
Charles.
I
Yeah, and
can only say one word in a British accent. Are you guys ready?
yes, please.
I just say it really slowly. Let
Okay.
play. Do I sound British? Let
I like
play.
that. Yeah, you sounded posh and bored. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm like I can hang out with Kate and her crew. Like, look
You
at
got
me.
it. You totally got it. Yeah, I feel like at some point with William, there's kind of a point where he decided that he was no longer going to kind of go on this crusade with Harry to fight the media to do
Yes.
things differently, and that he was kind of maybe worn down by Charles, by his courtiers, whomever, or the weight of being the heir to the throne, and basically decided, okay, I am going to play the game. I'm going to
Yes.
take maybe a page out of my father's book, and I think that's where a lot of potential contention comes between Harry and William.
Yes.
Okay, listen, I know there's so much to talk about, but I know you're ready for Shoegate because
Yes.
what was the media talking about?
We're talking
Shiz.
about Rose Hanbury. We're talking about Aquazera having some of the best free PR they've ever had, other
I
than when
want those
Megan came
I want
obviously.
those pumps so badly, and I have no reason to own them, and they're
They're
850
so
freaking
expensive, but I
pounds.
want them. I go on there like honestly once a week and just look at their shoes. I already have I have a file. I'm like, Megan, just wear these since I can't afford these. Please wear these butterfly
Someone, yeah,
strappy
wear
heels
them in
for
my
me, please,
honor.
please. But yes, so Aquazera. Megan, we all know, made that brand very famous. Well, not even just famous, but she made it synonymous with her. She brought it into the mainstream. Obviously, this brand was around for rich people forever, but she brought it mainstream for us in
She really brought it into
2018.
the royal family, and she's been wearing them since 2012.
Yeah, like, what were the pumps? Like, what were Kate's pumps? I'm forgetting her pumps. Ah,
Not
were there
pumps,
okay Burnett
not pumps,
pumps?
not pumps, not pumps. My
Yes,
lovely
they're the
lady
ladies' ones.
pumps.
All
Check it out.
right. So if you've been following Kate for a while, you know what shoes I'm talking about. She literally wore these shoes like every single engagement for like 5 years. But yeah, they're synonymous with Meghan. Kate started wearing them, I think it was first time in 2020. She wore the like cream version of the black ones that Meghan brought in 2018. And we saw later on Kate in now, I mean, this year, 2023, a few days ago. So she's wearing them a couple other times. One other time is like the lady portrait shoes. Some people try to say and argue that it's a different shoe. That's, I mean, literally slightly different, and like the edges are rounded instead of like pointed. I think they're the same shoe, but if they are, they'll literally look exactly the same for except for one tiny little thing. So she's worn those. We have the day before the coronation. She comes out wearing the black Aquazera pumps with a bow that Meghan specifically wore, I think, like 4 different times and has a flat version. Obviously, people are like, okay. And this is when you start getting the headlines connecting them. Kate pays tribute to Meghan. Kate pays tribute, or Kate, mirror Meghan. Meghan and me and you talked about this. What's interesting about these headlines always is the tone. Obviously,
Yes.
it's not that they won't call it out. It's the tone of the way they call it out is that it's positive, it's fun. It's either she's giving a shout out to Meghan, which I think leads into that narrative. Oh my God, Kate is such the bigger person. Even though Meghan said all these horrible things about her, she's still going to give her a little shout out and nod out of respect. Because I think the first time she wore them, Meghan had just had Lilibet. And some people try to be like, this is her paying homage, like a nod to her. I'm like, no. And I will say this real quick. If you are going to stay silent and benefit from the racism someone is facing, and the only time you're going to speak up and quote unquote support them is when you are wearing a beautiful pair of shoes a year or so after the fact, where you won't get any shit for it and you just get to look glamorous and pretty, you're not an ally. You're not being supportive. You're being disrespectful, and you are using someone to once again elevate yourself. It's gross. It's
Yeah,
sinister.
and to your point, so the one of the Daily Mail articles that you referenced is mirroring Meghan. Kate
Yes.
wears her sister-in-law's signature, and you're right, the whole tone is, "This is so cool and fine." It's
So
not
cute.
if the no, pun intended, but if the shoe were on the other foot,
Yes.
it would be
Very different.
Meghan just wants to be just like Kate, like, she can't do anything again, it's not so much like standing one person or the other, it's the hypocrisy
It's a lot of
and
that.
the
I mean,
underlying racism that
exactly.
palpitates through all of this.
And we with the coronation dresses. Can you imagine if Meghan had another coronation dress made that looked almost exactly the same
It
for
would be
next year?
lambasted,
Or we would
lambasted.
even were if people even had this debate and were wondering this. Right now, there would be 20 articles about this on the Daily Mail. And mind you, there is an article in the Daily Mail about that dress, and it's just speculating. It's not confirming. It's saying some fans, people think that this is two different dresses, and this is why. They are not confirming or denying, which I also find interesting about all that. But anyways, I remember when Meghan wore two different trench coats during the Oceania tour. And hey, I'm not saying they were wrong for criticizing there. Like, girl, back to back, two different trench coats that are like $1,000 each. Not the best, especially when we're getting to know you. But both of those trench coats she had purchased before she was a working royal, because you can see photos with her having on, with those
Oh.
coats on. So I'm like, for one, those coats she owned beforehand, and she still got shit. And again, I'm not saying those criticisms, they weren't accurate in some ways, but I'm like, if she can get crap for that and get article and comment after comment, but Kate has two different gowns that are almost exactly the same, and people are like, how dare you suggest that? Again, it shows the
It's the double
hypocrisy.
standard. It's the double standard.
It's the
So, okay,
double
so back
standard.
to the shoes though. So
Yeah.
yes, Kate wears the same black shoe and everyone's like,
Hmm.
"Why?" This is going to invite comparison. But then the next day at the coronation, the
Yeah.
day after Kate wears the black pumps, Rose Hanbury single white females and also wears the same damn pumps. Now, I think they might be the 85s and not the 105s
Yeah, they're
because
slightly shorter. You can
they're
see the
slightly
heel.
but it's the same
Thank
exact
you.
shoe. Okay. So
And
at first I was like, I cannot fathom why you'd wanna bring this on yourself unless you're trolling someone, but matter of fact, little
mhm.
shout out, our future
Love our
interviewee,
Amanda.
she did a whole video that to me gave perfect plausible reasons why one might do this. Kate doing it because she knows that Megan's gonna be trending, she's gonna be a topic of conversation, so might as well make sure that you are in there too.
Yep.
And then with Rose, Rose runs Houghton Hall, which is a very expensive property. Remember, aristocrats are asset rich, not necessarily
The
money
cash
rich.
rich, yeah.
And so bringing about this, being part of the conversation in that way potentially brings more attention to her. Maybe more
Very
people are
big
going to go to
exposure.
Instagram. Maybe we're going to click on some of those sponsored posts. She has literally like shop the China. I'm like, oh my God,
She's a full
relate
IG influencer. This is
relatable
why
queen. I'm just kidding.
well, this is why I just, like, laugh too when people would bring up Megan, like, she's, like, so Hollywood in this influencer, she's, like, cheapening the brand. I'm like, "You guys, there's influencer all over the place." Like,
Like,
when
look,
they're running one of these properties, they pretty much have to be an influencer because they have to constantly be on social media and promoting it. And if you're beautiful, I mean, you see this with the Spencers, Charles Spencer, his wife, I'm forgetting her name, gorgeous woman. And Charles obviously is very well known in the UK because of his sister, and he has his own personality. So you constantly see them out and about promoting themselves, promoting their books, and promoting, their estate, because that's also where they make money. And it's a lot
just
of money
watch
for
Downton
upkeep.
Abbey. Just watch Downton Abbey if you don't believe me. All of Abbey is about being able to afford the damn house and land because no one has
Exactly.
actual money. Because David Rock Savage, I read a lot of articles about him that I could find, and years ago, different points, he's had to sell off art and stuff so
Mhm.
continue to pay because it's expensive to have the upkeep.
Yeah. I mean, this is why you have people, like, selling the heirlooms, like the tiaras and stuff,
Yeah.
when someone dies and gets passed on, because they're like, "Oh, dad is passed away, I have to take on," and you're looking at all the financial records, and you're like, "Holy crap, we're in debt. We need to start selling some shit, guys. We've got bills to pay." But yeah, so she's wearing these heels, and I do think that's interesting. I do think it's her influencing. It's her, because the thing is, she could have gone under the radar, easily gone under the radar.
This was so purposeful, and anyone that
Yes,
doesn't think so is being willfully obtuse.
and,
This
like,
woman
even
probably has, like, 50 pairs of black slingbacks.
yes.
This was intentional.
And I think what's interesting too is the dress. Hold on.
Yeah, some people were saying it was kind of mimicking
Well,
Kate's
'cause
black and white dress, but to me, it was
yeah,
very
it doesn't look
different.
anything like the dress to me, and
It's just black and white.
it's black and white. But I also think though that's interesting, because I don't know. I'm just kind of like, obviously it's not the same dress, but black and white is enough though to tie her though to Kate, because Kate wore black and white with the black shoes, and
That's
I just
fair.
can't keep it thing, because I think about how Kate has, used Megan's fashion to, not only promote herself, but also connect herself back to Megan in like this positive kind of neutral way. And oftentimes it'd say wearing the pair of shoes. Cause also that night for the the reception, Kate is in that, I think it was a self-portrait dress, that blue self-portrait dress. She's got the deep side part, the old Hollywood curls, and she's again wearing the Aquazera heels that Megan had worn. This, and I'm saying that blue dress, and mind you, Megan wore those same lady portrait Aquazera heels with a blue dress, the same exact shade of blue, totally different dresses though. And in the
Oh,
look,
yeah.
everything, totally different dresses. Did she also have the same hair as Kate? The side part with the old Hollywood curls? Yes. Is her hair slightly different because she didn't have a bang? Yes. But I'm like, these are all little things, but it's enough for Kate to be matched with Megan in that exact moment.
It's
But it
weird,
also
right?
enough for you to be able to fight and be like, they're totally different dresses. You're doing too much. And I'm seeing the same exact thing from Rose. So I don't know, is like the queen of single white femaling Megan going to be out single white female by Rose?
It's like
By
Inception. I'm like, there's too many layers to
what
this.
is going on? And as far as I know, too, for royal coronations, I think it's usually only the royal ladies who are supposed to wear white. Like, because I think the
Oh,
only
I'm
other
not
person I
sure.
saw in white was Queen Maxima. That's a royal. And someone else had brought that up. And everything I'm looking at when I try to look up stuff about the dress code and white with the coronation, all I get is why royal women wear white. And that's all I can find. But I can't, yeah, I can't find anything distinct saying though only royal women are supposed to wear white, but I am wondering if it's kind of one of those like unofficial type of like rules or just, manners that you're not supposed to. But hey, I mean, her husband's high up there. It's not like she would get in trouble. Sure, she's not technically a royal, but she's high up there on the peerage system with her
She
husband.
she is. I mean,
Very high up there.
she's a Marchioness. I
Yeah.
mean, she has a title.
We're not playing there. But yeah, it's interesting. And like we all know, royal women in clothing is very, very important. It's very important. It sends a message, and oftentimes it's their only
It's
voice.
how they talk. It is how they communicate, and we have so many examples of that, which is why it is really hard to say on the most watched and anticipated weekend of the year that they would not be picking out every single
Yeah,
outfit and accessory with a fine-tooth comb. It's just unbelievable that they would just happen to pick the Aquazara,
exactly.
satin bow
And
slingback shoes.
just like okay, me and you have discussed this. Talking about Rose with the affair rumors and stuff is something we want to be sensitive towards. We don't know if
Yes.
it's true. We do not know
Nope.
these people. Children are involved, but what we do know is there seemed to be some sort of tension going on between them at some point. And it has now unraveled into a story, into them all doing PR. We talked a little bit about the reintroduction of Rose into their group, dating all the way back to Kate's birthday, I think in 2020. She was there for like the Christmas
Yep.
walk. The lead up to the coronation, they're being introduced as William's friends when talking about, the participation in the coronation. It's always William's friend. So they have been reintroduced to us from whatever happened, whether it was an affair or just a falling out between girlfriends. I do
Yep.
not know. But we do know there is a story there. And then we do know, obviously, about Charles and Camilla. And I do remind people, we did not find out about Charles and Camilla for years. It was like, I think almost like a decade until it came public knowledge that they were together. I'm not sure a decade, but I know it was years. I think people forget that. And we also know during those years, for example, Camilla wore like white to Diana and Charles' wedding. Um,
And she
we
would wear, like,
know,
jewelry and stuff that, like, he
yes,
got her. Yeah.
exactly, in front of Diana to taunt her. There was little things going on in the background that people weren't aware of because they did not have the knowledge that Charles and Camilla were together.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't know. Again, at the end of the day, we don't know. I'm sure at some
I
point in
agree
time
with
there's gonna
you.
be cheating rumors about Meghan and Harry because there is about pretty much every famous couple. But
Totally. And I'm not super interested, honestly, in if there was an affair or not. To me, what's interesting is the British media who
yes,
it never stopped them a lack of facts before, but the fact that apparently a super injunction, and again, if there's no there, why do you need to squash
exactly.
it this hard?
And
And
we
that's what and it might not even be an affair. It could be anything else. But I think to your point
exactly.
that this might not be something that we really kind of have more a better understanding of for a couple of years, and maybe we never know. I will say though,
Exactly.
the one thing though that like I really hate is first of all people that are like, "Oh, like William's other son was there." And I'm like, "Well,
Mm.
Oliver's a twin, so first of all, it would be 2 sons, but also I I really hate when people play that game of like, oh, that's not his real dad. They did that with Harry. They do I think it's like a really like I don't like that. Also, all of these people look the same. People are like, "Oh my god, apparently
Yeah.
the daughter is a spitting image of Charlotte." I'm like, "All of these white people look the same."
They
They're like
just like
they've been
stopped inbreeding like
they've been
recently.
breeding together for thousands of years.
Aren't like I mean what Diana, I think Charles are the only ones who aren't like first cousins or second cousins. Like Queen
Dude,
Philip
it's
and I mean Philip and the Queen were cousins. Like
these people all look the same.
for a reason. It's gonna take a
Rose and
while.
Kate look similar.
Yes.
Rose and Kate look similar.
And hey, I
Like,
will say too, before they got married, William did prefer blondes. I'm saying every time
that's
he dumped
true.
Kate to go have some fun with other ones, it was always a
It
blonde.
was always
I'm
the
just
blondes.
saying.
So, wrapping up here, and this is not necessarily coronation related, but it's something that we did want to talk about. And
Yeah.
that is the ghostwriter for the book Spare recently came out with an incredible piece in the New Yorker. It is lengthy, but I recommend everyone reads it. We
Yes,
will
it's
include it
very
in our show notes. It's a very interesting look, and it's about his process with Prince Harry and writing Spare. But more than that, it's about what it means to be a ghostwriter and what it means to write this kind of book with someone. And
yes.
I found it absolutely fascinating. Of course, the online takes are predictably trash with, outlets like the Daily Mail pulling snippets to prove their point, which actually in turn proves JR, who's the ghostwriter,
He
and
literally talks
Harry's
about that.
point. Yeah, and know what else is getting me though? I want to clear this up right now. I had so many comments. I did a video on this, which went kind of viral, and that is a blessing and a curse. But a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, did he just break his NDA? Like, how could he do that? Like, that's a terrible ghostwriter. You're supposed to be a ghost." And I'm like, baby, baby, it's not literally Casper. And also, you think that this man wrote this piece for the New Yorker that took weeks and didn't run it by Prince Harry's camp and Andre Agassi's camp because he also wrote about his experience writing Open. You
Mhm.
really think that this man torched his career and that the New
Exactly.
Yorker allowed him to do this without being like, "Hey man, what was in your contract with Prince Harry? We want to make sure our lawyers can review so we don't get sued."
Yeah.
You really think Prince Harry was surprised by this piece? I am just losing faith in humanity. I am losing faith.
And and I think too, first off, good on Harry for not hiding his ghostwriter. Because that's usually what happens the majority of the time is a celebrity will write a book and they hide their ghostwriter or yeah, I had he helped me a little bit with stuff, but this was all me. He just helped me edit things. Like it's usually trying to act like I did this mostly and they just kind of like grammar checked me.
Although
He's
I will say to your point, in his clause, in JR's clause, it was he had the right to not have his name revealed.
oh
And
yeah.
part of the reason his name was revealed, and I don't know what they were gonna like actually do, but it might have been that. But someone leaked the information about the book and JR's name specifically. So
Yeah.
someone breached the contract
Oh,
and
and I'm
leaked that
also not surprised
information.
because it was huge news. Like, also finding out
Yeah.
they've been writing this since the early pandemic, you know what I
Yep.
mean? So it's been in the process for a while. Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Yeah, it is like what he is still I don't know. I feel like again, at least the people around them are smart enough to know that you guys can't play the same excuse me, like gray area games here. You know what I mean? Like, is it a second dress or is it not? You know, is there a ghostwriter? Is there not? And I mean, they try to play that before a little bit. Let's think about to Finding Freedom. They said we had nothing to do with that book. Then we find out from the emails, no, it wasn't a collaboration, but they did allow Jason to talk and have a meeting once. And again, I always tell people with that, I personally have always loved those emails because I love just seeing more behind the scenes of how these things even go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these kind of books are made about everyone. So I'm sure this is similar to what you see with William and Kate when they're like, okay, you guys can talk. Or when you see Charles and Camilla with the Robert Johnson book, I'm sure it was something like this. Okay, you can have 2 sit down meetings with them and these people can talk to them about this. So it is interesting seeing that. But again, they try to play that gray area game of we had nothing to do with this. This is not us at all. And it wasn't a complete lie, but it wasn't a complete truth because they
Yeah.
did allow their guy to talk. So I don't think they can do that anymore. So I feel like we would always kind of have known about him, but I am glad they are super open about it. And I think what was really cool too was him kind of saying like it was a little hard sometimes because Harry wants to also use this to retract so many stories that have been written about him over the
Yeah.
years. To say that wasn't true, that isn't true, that isn't true. And him having to be like, okay, this is good, but also we're supposed to be storytelling too. We
Yes,
can't just
exactly.
have it a burn book the whole time against
No,
the
it can't we can't mean girls this, and I get it because I
yeah.
think it's really I actually think it gave me a new appreciation for ghostwriting because I think it allows you to tell somebody your story and let someone with fresh eyes see it,
Yes.
and then tell you what the pieces are that is going to create a narrative based on your life and your truth. And I thought that was a
Exactly.
really because no memoir, even someone that writes their own memoir, no one is it's not a chronological thing. You're not just linear like a
Yes.
linear, laying out of everything that happened in your life because that wouldn't be interesting. You have to
Exactly.
have through lines, and that's what's important. So I love seeing the process. I also liked seeing from this man's point of view, this man who's not he's a well-known writer, but he's not like famous,
Yes,
what it was
exactly.
like when he was unmasked and suddenly he had the media after him and watching
Yeah.
just falsehood after falsehood after falsehood
Mhm.
printed about him,
Paparazzi.
paparazzi, a Daily Mail reporter, like, staring into his window, and then he comes to Harry and tells him about it. Harry's like, "Welcome to my life, dude.
Yeah, like,
That's what
they
I
and I
deal with."
think yeah, it's, like, scary too because people don't think realize how much they can get stalked. You know what I
It's
mean? So, like,
really
when people are
creepy.
talking about, like, the security during that time of them the debate about them having security and it being taken away or not, I'm like, "I don't think you guys really understand that you are leaving a family vulnerable for very violent things to happen to them." It's like
Yeah,
people just think they're being dramatic for no reason, but I'm like, "No, like,
not even
it's
close.
very real." I mean, it's very real. But yeah, I really enjoyed hearing about that. I wish though he would have talked about why they left the frostbitten penis stuff in. Or at least
I
that
think
why there
okay,
was so
I
much
have a
of it.
theory. I have a theory. I
Yes,
have a
please
theory.
tell.
I think some of those moments, those, like, kind of, like, because I know there were some moments where people were like, "Why did he put that in the book?" I think he was trying to make it so there's no compromise on him. There
Yeah,
is nothing you can come after him with because he's written about it. You can't
exactly. No, yeah.
embarrass him. I have to think that anything potentially I mean, we got into the Nazi costume. We got into all the things that potentially could be used against him, and I think that's a longer term thing of, like, the press have nothing on me. There is
Yes,
nothing on me that they can reveal, and if he's going to court potentially and taking the stand and
that's
having things
true.
voicemails, emails, whatever that are going to be revealed, there's going to be
Yeah,
nothing that he hasn't
revealable
already
stuff
talked
that's most
about.
likely gonna be in there, you know what I mean? And I also think
That's what I
too
think it is.
there's also too probably the fact that, like, things like that have been talked about for a while for Harry, like, they had the debate, "Is he circumcised or not?" when he was literally a child, so I also think
Which is
sometimes maybe it's
gross.
just like, "You guys have been talking about my penis since I was a baby.
Wlet's
Why
get
wouldn't I
into
talk
it.
about it?"
Let's
Like,
get
you
into
know
it.
what I mean?
Exactly. Why
Like,
not
I think
make
you're
why
hitting it for me and not the tabloids.
all of you are making money off of me. Why don't I make some money for my own family and also tell
Yeah,
my truth? And I have to say, one of the most beautiful parts of the article is when they have a book launch party and Harry gives a toast and he thanks JR for reminding him to trust the book, like trust the process basically,
yeah,
and that in this process he feels free. Like
yeah.
this was freeing for him. And I thought that was super
I think
beautiful.
yeah. Because I think it's really beautiful, and I think a lot about what Harry's done in particular with this book, and then, like, when he had the interview with the doctor, I'm forgetting his name, I think it's showing the different ways people can heal. And I
Yes.
also think breaking just the generational curse that we have as as a society, that thinking that healing is just like one thing. Like, oh, you need
Yes.
to heal, then you need to be quiet, go in a corner, cry for an hour. That's all the time you get. Then I need you to toughen up and get out there and get over it. You know what I mean? Start rebuilding relationships with these people by just letting it go and starting on a fresh foot. Like, that is not always how forgiveness is going to go. It's not linear. It's not a one size fits all type of thing. So I think it's been really beautiful seeing him talk about it that way. So what I think is really interesting, because I think we've heard a lot since the book has came out and stuff, this back and forth debate about whether he should be family exposing family secrets and so on and so on. And again, I think it's really important to show, like, yes, I've had to expose some secrets, but these things still affected me. And I think him and JR did a really good job of that too. Because I mean, you're talking about someone so famous who's also going to be talking about a lot of very famous people who are very private and secretive. That's a hard, I can imagine, line to walk. I want to make sure I can tell your story, but I also, in some ways, still there's still a line I don't want to cross with invading these people's privacy. You
He also
know,
never tells a story that isn't related to him. It's never
exactly.
it's never
It's
better,
always related to him, and
and
we've
it's
heard most of
interesting.
these stories.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, someone said on the video that I made about this is that, you know, that Harry should have, done therapy instead of written the book, and I replied, "This book is an example of someone who's done therapy. This book is a product of
Exactly.
therapy. This book is a
He
product of
is doing
therapy."
therapy. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can see that. Being able to give control, or at least partial control, of your story when everyone else has been telling it their whole life to another
Yes.
person, I think that shows therapy, and I think that shows healing, and I
Yes.
think that shows learning to trust people again. And I mean, you again, you look at the community he was in, that includes royalists, because you're seeing the coronation interviews beforehand, and they're asking about Andrew and they're asking about Harry. And you see people with Andrew, oh yeah, it sucks, but I don't think he affected the family too much. You just gotta, like, do better and be better. And then they start talking about Harry. And the same people are having this kind of like walk around, this like compassion for Andrew, immediately either like, oh, no comment, or oh, he's horrible. He shouldn't be here. He talked about his family, and you should never. Yeah, what Andrew did may not have been okay, but we don't know if he actually did it. At least he didn't talk about his family. He didn't speak out against his family. And again, this is why I think it's so important that Harry is doing what he's doing, because I know a lot of people, Harry can be easy to hate on, whatever. But what he is doing, if say, is probably one of the most famous people out there right now who are being very forthcoming about breaking toxic family ties. And when we're right now in a generation, especially with millennials, where we are trying to unlearn the toxicity of saying, I have to be loyal to my family no matter what they did to me, it's very important to have that figure. And I don't care what you feel about Harry. He's doing a very good job of it. And he's doing a good job too of exposing the issues with this. You're more okay with someone who's been accused of being a pedophile, than you are with a man speaking about the trauma he has endured. And mind you, a lot of these stories his family talked about first. That's what drives me crazy about this too. They leaked many of these stories first about him, especially the recent stuff, and he is responding to them and giving his full point of view, like the fight with his brother. So yeah,
Somebody said, and I can't remember who, it might have been on a podcast, but someone said the best case scenario that you can say about Prince Andrew is that he's pedophile adjacent, that his best friend was a pedophile. When that is the best case scenario and that's what you're shipping for, you got a problem. You
there's
got a problem.
multiple too. People forget that. There's a guy in the Bahamas, I'm forgetting his name, but he had an island in the Bahamas. He just got arrested for sex trafficking. He's using all the local girls. He's paying off the local cops. There's photos of Andrew there. There's photos of Andrew with Fergie and his children there. In the same exact estate that people, victims of this man, have came forward and said, yeah, this is where we had to be. He would have all his friends come, his old rich white friends come, and we had to service them. So there's multiple perverts that he's been
Yeah,
tied to.
it's gross. And I'm sorry to end on this
Weinstein
note,
too.
but that's just what happens sometimes. Again, there is so much more we could cover, but we
Yeah,
only
we're
have
like
so
an
much
hour and
time.
a half in, guys.
I know. There is so much. I know we weren't able to really touch the protests, but there are new protest laws in Britain that I would be worried about. It basically outlaws protests without outlawing protests, and that's scary. So, but that's something to look into. I'm going to remind myself to put in the show notes Guardian protest. just so you guys can read them if you'd like to. So definitely check out those show notes. And yeah, that is all for this episode of Lady Audacity. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode, which is going to be with Miss Matta Effect, an interview coming later this
We
month.
cannot
And then
wait.
also early June when we get into the ladies and we get into our other big surprise that's coming up. You do not want to miss it, I promise. And Alex, where can the good people find us?
The good people can find us at Lady Audaci-TEA. That's TEA at the end on IG. You can find us on TikTok. And obviously, you can find the podcast on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple. It's there. Love on us. Rate us.
Please keep leaving reviews. I have to
Yes.
say it's
Only
been
nice ones. Okay.
yep, just nice ones. We really prefer nice ones, and so
Just
far
saying.
they have been so cool. I actually really quickly to end the episode, I wanna read the one that we got that just it felt so good to be seen, like
Yeah.
someone just fully understanding what we wanna do and what we're about. It felt so good. This is from Not a Brian. It's titled Finally. Finally, it has happened to me. That's not what it says. So
Sorry.
something like that. I know it's a good song. So, finally, a podcast that discusses the royal family with a nuanced and critical eye. They delight in all things tiaras, fashion, and pop culture, while also still understanding the historical context of the institution and its flaws when dealing with issues of race and colonialism. Yes, mic drop, not a Brian. That is everything we wanted to show people. In fact, I might pull from that for our description because it's so well done. I'm like,
Yes.
this person wrote our mission statement. It's amazing.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
but we
you.
love it. The support has been amazing. We thank you
Yes.
so much. So until next time, pinkies up.
Pinkies up. Bye, guys.
Cheers.